Meanwhile, Matt Gaetz is explaining why he's holding out on the Kevin McCarthy's debt ceiling plan. Insanity ensues with the National Republican Party, which, again, has decided we're going to make it so that, like, you can have, like, a literal carcass. Like, not like a walking and talking carcass like last time around, where, like, Joe Biden is literally dead and propped up with sticks this time, and the country will still vote for him. Because what is our forward-facing national policy proposal? Oh, that's right. We're going to make it so that it's harder for people to maintain their entitlements, maintain their benefits, maintain their social safety nets, because we have this wanton, inconsiderate attitude towards the working poor. And what are we going to do about it? Oh, that's right. We are going to hold up the national debt. Like, we're going to tank the global economy so that, like, there are more fucking provisions here. You know what I mean? There are, more rules and loopholes to jump through that you have to, like, literally work to fucking survive.
For 4 years, the nation is at risk of a potential economic disaster. Thanks to partisan and intra-party politics in Washington, the U.S. is scheduled to default on its debt as early as June, something that's never happened before. And if the nation defaults, that means massive job losses, almost assures a recession. Federal benefits like Social Security are at risk. Interest rates, what you pay on your house, your car, your college loan, they all skyrocket. The stock market, it tumbles, dragging with it your 401ks. I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Michael, come on, we've seen the movie before and we know how it ends. They're going to figure it out just before the clock hits midnight. Since 1960, Congress has acted 78 separate times to permanently raise, temporarily extend, or revise the definition of the debt limit. It's all seemed to work itself out, but in life, there are no guarantees. Republicans are demanding more than $4 trillion in spending cuts in exchange for lifting the debt ceiling. But President Biden insists that budget talks shouldn't be included in something this consequential, even as some in his own party are pressing him to negotiate.
This is his job. This is the responsibility of the leader of the...
Hey, fuck you. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. You're a fucking bitch. I hate you. Joe Biden gifted Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema fucking bills, dude. Never forget that. Never forget that this fucking decrepit old corpse gifted these two fucking vultures, one of which left the party. The other one's too much of a pussy to actually do so. Like, gifted them bills. Ay, ay, ay.
The free world and definitely the United States president. He has to negotiate.
The debt ceiling now stands at $31.4 trillion. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy can only afford to lose 4 potential GOP votes to pass the bill. So it leaves him trying to appeal to all of his party's factions in order to get the votes on his own plan. House GOP leaders were initially pushing for a floor vote tomorrow on their plan, which would raise the ceiling for a year in exchange for deep spending cuts. But now McCarthy's opened the door to pushing back the timeline, saying a vote will come this week.
You have to change the bill to get 218 votes. I will let you know. Do you have 218 votes on this? You're the first person I'm going to call.
A decade ago, a debt standoff did have catastrophic consequences. As the Washington Post notes, that fight in 2011 between ascendant conservative Tea Party Republicans and President Barack Obama rattled the stock market, precipitated a downgrade in U.S. credit, and ultimately cost taxpayers more than $1 billion. You know who led?
You know who didn't get fucking punishments out of that, though? Republicans.
Negotiations with Republicans back then? Joe Biden, when he was serving as vice president. He negotiated back then, so why not now? How dire are things? Well, on the day that he's announcing his re-election bid, the president cited Donald Trump.
No, I think I'd be quoting Donald Trump, but even Donald Trump said, I can't imagine anyone ever thinking of using the debt ceiling as a negotiating wedge. Folks, America's not a deadbeat nation.
Oh my God. This narrative is so stupid. Just talk about economic doom and gloom that Republicans are fucking using as a weapon to do what? To do what? What does Kevin McCarthy want out of these negotiations? Something that is deeply and undesirably unpopular. Something that Donald Trump knows is deeply and undesirably unpopular. That's it. What happened? Mini F there? I'm not seeing it. It's not on my end. It's not happening. Hold on. Hold on. I'll run my Windows MTR, but just to be on the safe side. Every time there's like a mini baby hiccup, I'm like freaked out. Anyway, let's see how this works. It was 1 second. Chat is dumb. I mean, it's okay. Let's continue.
We pay our bills.
By the way, under Trump, the U.S. debt increased by nearly $8 trillion, and Congress voted to increase the debt ceiling 3 times without demands. But Republicans are now seizing on the issue as leverage. This brings me back to McCarthy and a massive leadership test. He has a caucus of 222. He needs to secure 218 votes to pass his plan and send it to a near certain defeat in the Senate. If he loses 5, he can't get it done unless...
What are they going to do? Like, you're really telling me that, like, Republicans in contested districts in the House are going to be like, yeah, we want to fucking make sure that we cut social safety nets further right now. Like, that's the reason why we are doing our very best to, like, just hold a gun to the head of the global economy, not just the American economy. It's so fucking stupid. And I don't think it's going to happen. But hey, what the fuck do I know? The Republican speaker has stuck to partisan bills that have kept his party united. That ends with a tough vote to raise the debt limit in exchange for spending cuts. Like, do you really want the entirety of the National Republican Party to be hammered with, like, they want to fucking make the old people die? Like, this is such a bad move that I'm surprised Donald Trump hasn't come out and talked about it. Like, no one is demanding this. The National Republican Party is, like, not on board with it. Most of them don't care about the optics of spending cuts. They care about being primaried from the right if they don't vote for it. Yeah, but it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter because, like, I mean, I guess that they are relying on the Democratic Party's feckless ineptitude that gives them a lot of leeway to do these insane things because they won't suffer any punishments, at least on the narrative front, because the Democrats are wholly incapable of doing anything that's good. But having said that, it's still something that is so... McCarthy himself is internally weak. And also on top of that, like, there are Democrats in contested seats that are not only worried about being primaried from the right, but, like, a lot of people recognize that this concept, if they advocate for it, is going to hurt them. Conservatives, when the country's about to break... No. Conservatives have killed their voter base. That's true. Conservatives don't care about what happens to their voter base, but they do care about sitting on their fucking seats. And, like, in this day and age, spending cuts are not necessarily a narrative that actually works. I mean, Donald Trump fucking literally beefed up the economy and gave like direct stimmies, if you remember, during COVID. You know what I mean? It's not like a thing that Republicans City is funny. Shitty? What the fuck? Kaya. President Biden has dismissed it as a MAGA economic agenda that includes spending cuts for working and middle-class folks. I mean, that's precisely what it is. God, I love this dog so much. They and other Democrats have condemned the legislation as recklessly austere, and fiscally misguided, and argued that in pushing it, Republicans are precipitating a debt crisis by tying unreasonable conditions to any vote to lift the debt ceiling. The statutory borrowing limit is expected to be reached by this summer, pushing the country into default unless Congress acts to raise it. It's such a stupid fucking tool, too. The debt ceiling, also called the debt limit, is a cap on the total amount of money that the federal government is authorized to borrow via U.S. Treasury securities, such as bills and saving bonds, to fulfill its financial obligations. Because the United States runs budget deficits, it must borrow huge sums of money to pay its bills. America hit its technical debt limit on January 19th. The Treasury Department will now begin using its extraordinary measures to continue paying the government's obligations. These measures are essentially fiscal accounting tools that curb certain government investments so that the bills continue to be paid. Those options could be exhausted by June. What's at stake? Once the government exhausts its extraordinary measures and runs out of cash, it would be unable to issue new debt and pay its bills. The government can wind up defaulting on its debt if it's unable to make required payments to its bondholders. Such a scenario would be economically devastating and could plunge the globe into a financial crisis. It could, and it would, actually.
The question is, can the speaker get this done with only Republicans? Did the deal that he cut to become speaker limit his options? One of the debt plan holdouts is Matt Gaetz. Yes, the same thorn.
Thanks for the content lately. Been helping with a bunch of shit. With some shit in life. Yeah, like being perma-stuck as Hasanabi on Twitter. Right, Carter? No, I'm just kidding. I hope everything's all right, man.
In McCarthy's side, who delayed his election as speaker. The GOP congressman from Florida, he joins me now. Congressman, welcome back. So when did Republicans find religion on spending?
Well, I think you've seen a little more than a dozen of us never vote for an increase in the debt limit. And so to do so, there has to be substantial downward pressure on spending. We're deeply concerned about a $32 trillion debt, what that means in terms of the dollar's position as the global reserve currency, and the extent to which government spending is driving the very inflation that we were elected to check. So we think Joe Biden should negotiate. That's what Democrat Joe Manchin said. That's what Democrat House member Jared Moskowitz said. And I think the American people understand that those negotiations are necessary in divided government.
My parents always said time and a place when they were raising my brother and me. Is this the time? Is this the place? And what I mean by that is we've already made these commitments. It would be like me with a spending problem. Instead of curbing my spending, now instead risking default and saying to creditors, no, I'm not going to honor the commitments that I've made.
No, I speak from personal experience when I say that when you've maxed out your credit cards, it's a pretty good time to evaluate your spending habits. And in the 7 years I've been in Congress, we haven't honored the true budget process even once. And so the debt limit presents a unique opportunity to try to put downward pressure on spending. 4 times when Joe Biden, as a United States Senator, voted to raise the debt limit, he demanded corresponding spending cuts. When Joe Biden didn't vote to raise the debt limit, he said it was because there weren't spending cuts at times. So if we had Joe Biden as president with the same perspective as Joe Biden as vice president or as senator, we'd probably...
The worst part about this is that, like, there is some truth to what he's saying, because Joe Brandon has historically been like this fucking let's negotiate with the Republicans cuck. So he can just point to like the many times when Joe Brandon has negotiated with the Republicans and been like, man, guess what? Look alive, Jack. We'll do some spending cuts for you.
have more negotiating going on now than we do.
Are the issues that you personally are raising, are they worth delaying this whole process? My understanding is that you're fixated on work rules and whether they begin in fiscal year 2024. I don't want to lose everybody in the weeds versus fiscal year 2025. It seems like you're tinkering at the margins.
Welfare to work should be a cornerstone of these negotiations. If Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich could make welfare to work deals, then certainly we should be able to make those with Joe Biden. And if any feature of this deal is sincere, it will start immediately. The oldest trick in Washington is to delay things 2, 3, 5 years down the road, to tell the voters that you believe in them, but to get the spending now and the cuts delayed. I'm not falling for that trick. My colleagues who put conditions on Speaker McCarthy are not going to fall for that trick. And let me answer the question you asked in your monologue. Absolutely. Features of the deal that allowed Kevin McCarthy to ascend to the speakership require him to fight on top line spending levels in this debt limit battle and to not delay that for the appropriations process that usually gets rolled up in one big omnibus bill.
Could this lead to, my recollection of the whole fight over him being elected speaker is that the resolution was that a single member could call for his ouster. You correct me if I'm wrong. Could this lead to that? Could you or one of your colleagues conceptually be calling for his ouster because of this impasse?
No one is looking to lower the sword of Damocles quite yet, Michael. Right now, we're working to get a responsible fiscal policy sent to the Senate. We believe that puts pressure on Schumer and Biden to work with us to try to avoid the catastrophic consequences you mentioned. But don't forget, there are also catastrophic consequences if we continue to drive these deficits up and this debt further and further into the future. That risks every economic opportunity for every American. And if we lose this dollar and if inflation continues, the savagery to the American family and the American economy will be severe.
The caucus is 222. You know the math. Speaker McCarthy, can lose 4. Right now, how many holdouts are there, yourself included?
Twice that. So I do not expect that there will be a vote as planned tomorrow on the McCarthy debt limit increase. I think there are still a few details we have to work out on work requirements, on some of the Green New Deal tax credits that we would like to see repealed, and there's some disagreement in our conference about that. And if we're able to get that done, I don't think it'll be tomorrow. I think that there's still some time for the cement to dry.
So
but it may very well be that what we send out of the House with 218 votes is the only thing we can get 218 votes for. Mr. Schumer and President Biden should take note of that.
Okay, so I'm hearing Matt Gaetz say that there are 8 holdouts as of this moment in time. There won't be a vote tomorrow. Have you personally spoken to Kevin McCarthy about this?
I wasn't able to speak to him this evening, but I spoke to members of his leadership team. I made very clear where I stood, and several of my colleagues did the same. And they've been public about it. And so I think that there's still a little work to do, but I don't despair that. I think that what the American people want to see is that people putting aside partisan affiliation and working together to reduce spending and to not have the catastrophic impact of defaulting, which is not something anybody wants to see.
You heard me say at the outset, I addressed the subject with some level of trepidation because I feel like viewers across the country are saying, we've heard it all before, and they always seem to work this out. Is this going to get worked out?
I hope so. And there's a lot of momentum toward that. But ultimately, the Democrats get a vote as well. My Republican colleagues would like to see a plan that actually starts to bend that curve of exponentially increasing spending. We want to claw back some of the COVID funds that are unobligated. We want pro-growth policies like H.R. 1 on energy. We want the REINS Act to curb the administrative state. And if we do all that, there could potentially be a deal on the table. But the Democrats have to understand we control one.
I just don't. Like, this is for nobody other than like Matt Walsh and a couple people that want to gain national prominence and like supposedly liberal media giving them that national prominence that they're desperately seeking. It's not something that people are demanding. It's not something that's going to be helpful. It's not good policy. And worst of all, it's not even good politics. It's just having some level of attention placed upon you. It's like an unruly child No question about the FBI investigating him. Remember, they dropped it, so he's of course his Venmo to the 17-year-old girl was totally valid, and his friendship with like currently in jail pedophile was just totally normal and valid, and so we just don't know.
Half of 1/3 of the government, and we are going to maximize that leverage to achieve our goals.
I get it. I would just say in closing, I've spoken to the folks at the Peterson Foundation. I'm sure the audience knows the commercials to which I refer. Peter Peterson, I think his name left $1 billion to focus the public's attention on this issue. And they make the point that we're in the fix we are, the $31 trillion, because of R's and D's. Both have spent too much. Final word?
I am eager to work with any Democrat who can see areas of our federal spending where we can curb and cut. Maybe we could agree to spend some less money to Ukraine. I mean, if we're at the debt limit for...
Yeah, man, that's what you actually want, truly. Yeah. It's like, dude, how about you focus on spending money at the top of the hour in the form of a $5 a month subscription, okay? Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break, and if you no longer want to see those ads, as many people don't, totally valid, totally normal, then all you need to do is subscribe, which you could do for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account through your Twitch account, where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that's me. You know what I mean? You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Yes, for the chatters who are noticing, I am sick. I'm sick. Sick and tired of you motherfuckers watching ads at the top of the hour. Subscribe so you avoid it. No. Yeah, I haven't been sleeping a lot for obvious reasons, and everything is gonna be fine. I'm gonna get better. Just gonna be a transition period where it's relatively difficult to take care of a little doggo. My guy should make a shorter stream today. Stay healthy. No, I can't do that because I'm actually behind on my fucking hours. I realized, and I might not make my 180 contract stipulated hours this month.
For our country, why are we funding the government of another country? Seems like a reasonable thing that Republicans and Democrats ought to be able to work on. But I agree, both parties have contributed to this mess, and it's probably going to take both parties negotiating to get out of it.
We'll come back and discuss that later, because the answer is because they're facing a savage invasion at the hands of Vladimir Putin, and we're defending democracy.
Well, at a very high cost to Americans, and I wonder whether or not we're extending the frequency of that savagery or not.
Congressman Gates, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.